RealTuners Radio.
Are you interested in taking a live, in-person class with RealTuners? We have 2-day courses in dyno shops across the country. Our next class will be this weekend in Melbourne, Florida on February 3rd and 4th at Trick Pro Motorsports. Then, 2 weeks later, we'll be at Tick Performance in Mount Airy, North Carolina on February 24th and 25th, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for a Holly-specific tuning class. Make sure to reserve your seat at RealTuners.com as soon as possible because class sizes are limited. If you'd like to bring 2 or more people, talk to us about group discounts. For more info or to make a reservation, go to RealTuners.com or message us at RealTuners LLC on Facebook. Learn how to tune your own standalone EFI systems like Holly, FuelTech, Megasquirt, Fast, and others on the chassis dyno. Includes topics such as traction control, individual cylinder tuning on a budget, and power adders, all designed to help you get your project running successfully in a course taught by people who've actually done this sort of thing for a living.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to RealTuners Radio episode 33. We have a special guest tonight. This man is a legend. He has more 200-mile-per-hour club records than anybody else on the planet in various locations, I believe. He is the technical director of Drag Week. He's also the owner of the East Coast Timing Association. Ladies and gentlemen, Keith Turk is joining us tonight. We also have our usual crew of flunkies here, including but not limited to Chris Delgado from Pro Speed, Chad Spire, Spire Racing Heads, John Bewley, Little John's Motorsports Solutions, Tom Sewell, Fuel Injector Development, James Short, Shore Tuning, Mark Dahlquist, Throttles Performance, Bill Fowler, Bear Brakes, Doug and Andy Cook from Motion Raceworks, Scott Evans with Evans Tuning, and the guy we're not really sure how it is he gets in here week after week, Rye Klemp from Bull City Speed. And now your engineer in charge at large, Scott Clark.
Hey, man, I love that intro, Rye. I think I'm going to have to keep it. So, that's awesome. Wow. So, welcome. What is this? Episode 33. It is January 31st, 2018. Greetings to everyone. Tonight's going to be kind of interesting. As Rye told you, we have Keith Turk coming on tonight. Very interesting dude. Good friend of mine. We've known him for a long time. We also got an in-studio guest, my buddy, long-time old school buddy, helped me install EFI systems back when I was learning this stuff like 12 and 15 years ago. My good buddy, Mike Higginson. Say hello, Mike.
Hey, how you doing?
So Mike is actually in studio with us tonight. So clean the basement toilet. Just kidding. No, anyway, we did. Anyway, so let's see. Trying to think of what else is shaking here, man. Or maybe Rye's got some news or some stuff went on this week. I don't know, man. Anything?
Yeah, hey, man, what's up? So I saw today that Chevrolet released a pretty rad little video. The new Z06 that we talked about on the show a couple months ago that leaked pictures and then they debuted it. They took that thing to VIR today and it knocked the Ford GT, a car that costs almost 5 times as much, off its podium and set the new production car record at VIR. So I thought that was pretty badass. Can't wait to see that thing on the ring when it goes overseas.
Yeah, it's the ZR1, not the Z06.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. ZR1. The ZR1.
Yeah, they did the Z06 too, and the C7 Z06 was only a second behind the GT. But the ZR1 was a second ahead of the GT.
That's pretty insane when you break it down. Because yeah, I've watched a bunch of reviews on that stuff on the Ford GT, and everybody kind of says the same thing, that they built that car as basically to a race car to win Le Mans, and then they kind of watered it down a little bit for street use. So you would think that the bar would be a little bit higher.
It's still a V6.
You had it too.
I'm sorry, but you don't sell somebody a $400,000 car and put a V6 in it.
You already know it's not going to sound right. I haven't even heard one yet. It's like, oh,
Dude,
man, I like the GTs.
Oh, you haven't? I mean, you haven't even gotten on YouTube and to hear the video of the thing sounding like a pissed off weed whacker 2-stroker.
No, but that's what I'm talking about.
It's the most garbage sounding car I've ever heard in my life.
I think it's kind of a prediction of the future of, how long until the Mustang. I wouldn't bet that this generation and possibly the next generation, I think the next generation Mustang, whenever that comes out, is going to be probably the last one with a V8.
You just thinking that, or?
Unfortunately, unless we see a change in the EPA and the CARB rules,
carry on. What happened to all my Discord buddies? You guys getting quiet on us?
No, they're mid-sentence.
Lovely. Hey, it's going to be just us two tonight. I think my Discord choked. I think they can probably hear us and we can't hear them once again. That's what happened last time. Love it. Love the good old technical difficulties. No big deal. I can work on that. Yeah, everybody's like, what's going on the chat?
Which chat are you watching?
I'm watching this one over here. So sit tight, everybody. You know what we'll do? We can play a little bit of gospel music for them. Be right back.
Pass a collection plate after this tune?
Pretty much. I gotta reboot my Discord box. One moment. We'll be back in just a second. Enjoy the gospel.
Now like, oh fuck, here comes Eddie.
There we got him back. We back.
Oh,
Hey,
shit.
we're back.
Sorry about
guys.
that. Woo! I can always edit that out. Sorry for the live people, but you won't hear that on the. That's one of those things you won't hear on the rebroadcast. Oh, hilarious! Hi, you're funny. You guys are hilarious. Right, Clemp? I can see that's you. Don't act like I know exactly who that is.
I'm gonna do it every time.
Dick. Hold on, I got one too.
What'd you do?
Shit. AOL dial tone. I got your dial tone. Hey man, this isn't easy. It ain't easy being podcast and not fading out. So anyway, where were we? Hey, we're getting close.
We were bashing the Ford GT.
Yes. Okay.
discussing the pending demise of V8 engines in general in production cars.
We're gonna end up being
I mean-
V twins and everything someday, or we're actually just gonna be electric before we know it.
Well, I'm not sure if you heard what Tom said. Go ahead, Tom. See what you said. I don't think
It's all about small displacement and turbos. I mean, they keep getting better and better and better. I mean, when you can get 400 horsepower out of a 2-liter on pump gas, how big do you need to go for most people?
Truth.
It's called MOAR, MOAR.
Yeah. Get them while you can, ladies and gentlemen. V8s are on borrowed time.
Let's celebrate the peak of power from what you can get. You can get 700 horse motors with a warranty from the OEMs now. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
This is the best time ever.
It absolutely is. You know, when my dad and I have this conversation, he kind of says that, they don't build them like they used to all the time.
Bullshit.
Typical old time. Like,
my Charger, 69 Charger, pulled the front wheels and the blah, blah, blah. And it ran 14s on plastic tires. Yeah.
I just finished fixing that supercharged Escalade that was done by somebody else, and it was 540 something at the tires on the Mustang, and that thing is, to me, I gotta, if I had the money, I gotta get one of those. It's the best daily driver I've ever even imagined, and oh my goodness, I mean, I got to get me one of those.
Yeah, I mean,
boost is good for everything, really.
You can have your cake and eat it too. Like, hey, Dad, tell me more about how you used to hop beer bottles in the parking lot for $100 bills on the dashboard. That was the biggest thing. I thought that was really cool that the Corvette was able to knock off a car costing substantially more.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of cool, but part of me wonders, all right, what about if the Ford came back with a better driver or some more practice or something? Did they know that they were racing, that there was a record, or is it just a little bit of one-upmanship, But
come on, those are car guys. Do you think they don't know the record?
I mean, I'm sure they're working for it.
No, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say they found all the problems and they circled it and they put it on the front grille.
I don't know, but look at what Dodge did. Dodge did that whole tour with the Viper and crushed all those records at the track. Then they came out with a Hellcat and made how much? 707 with the Hellcat. Nobody, they kind of just sat back and nobody wants to touch this. Fine, we'll just race ourselves. And they threw a demon out there. They try to start something, but I don't know. I'm not sure that they kind of, if it's like a gentleman thing and they don't want to acknowledge each other, I'd love to see it, kind of revive the horsepower wars, or at least acknowledge the existence of the other person. And maybe this will kind of start something a little back and forth.
I think you should introduce our guest tonight.
All right. So our guest tonight, you guys have seen him. If you're familiar with Drag Week or the East Coast Timing Association, you've seen him kind of working behind the scenes, especially on a lot of the hot rod stuff. He's been on a few episodes of Roadkill. He kind of has his hands in all sorts of stuff. A lot of it is land speed stuff. I'm not exactly sure how many he has. I'm sure he will tell us.
We got to have him explain this. Yeah.
I think he has, it's 9 different locations where he has set joined the 200 mile per hour club. And I just learned all of this.
Is it that many? I thought it was
recently.
5 or 6, but I'm going to find out.
I thought it was 9. It's high. It's a lot. It's a lot.
This guy also, I mean, and that's just his hobby stuff. This guy also is, let's see, has trained helicopter pilots for the military in Cobra gunships and later Apaches. And he still as a flight instructor right now, on top of all the other stuff, amazing stuff that he does. But if we haven't inflated his ego too much already, ladies and gentlemen, and hopefully he can hear us.
Most interesting man in the world.
Yes, he is the most interesting man in the world, minus the accent, Mr. Keith Turk. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, Scott, how are you? And
Good.
Which Ryan is this?
That's Rye Klemp. He's a buddy of ours.
Rye Clamp.
Yeah.
How's it going, Keith?
You're going to meet him on Drag Week this year.
I'm good.
Yes, you will.
And he's going to fail your ass in tech.
Hey, don't worry. We didn't know who he was either until he came on the show.
Yeah, I'll smoke him. I don't even know him, and I'll say I'll smoke him. It's no problem. I don't know what his issues are, but we'll find him.
Great.
Actually, all the other drag weeks will point him out before he gets there.
Right?
Yeah, that's kind of a gift.
Yeah, he's pretty much toast right as he pulls in.
I look forward to the challenge, sir.
And what are you bringing? What kind of car is this?
I'll be bringing my 94 Mustang GT. It's actually really unique. It has an LS motor in it.
That's unusual. You really should have said you had a purple Duster. Looked just like Eddie Miller.
Right, we know.
Hey,
Anyway.
does being on the show get us like free tech card for Drag Week?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Does being on the show get us a free tech card for Drag Week?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Number one in line. I can't wait to get your registration taken care of for you.
Yeah.
If you seen my car, you'd understand.
Yeah. Can I
You-
pre-register
on-
right now before it goes public?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't I do that? Interesting story. I've actually seen Freiberger online doing it for somebody else because we can't do it for anybody. He literally sitting there waiting for it to go live. He happens to know exactly the second it goes live, but he literally sitting there on two computers hitting enter.
Oh yeah, that's what a lot of guys are doing, sitting there refreshing
Yeah.
screens. Yeah.
Yeah, we just don't, we don't get any favors in any of this crap. So there you go.
Amen.
So yeah.
Oh,
That's
I better
pretty
get one.
Everybody that showed up has gotten in though the last couple of years since when I was out there. I mean, they made it. It's kind of rolling the dice, but it's pretty
hugely,
cool.
It's hugely rolling the dice anymore because we were way over, and just the number of people that broke and test and tune prior to the event
Right.
were just the right amount of number. I think we were within just a couple of people. I strongly would not recommend that program.
Yeah. It was
Because
close, right?
Yeah, it's going to stop, and it's going to stop abruptly on some guy that just traded 2,000 miles.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I don't know, and I don't know what to say about that. Drag Week is an amazing event, but the answer, Scott, by the way, is 7 200-mile-an-hour clubs.
7 of them. Holy crap.
Who cares?
No,
It's just
we
stuff.
care. That's actually pretty cool because it's a unique thing. And I mean, it's different than class racing. It's the one. It's a record. There's not necessarily a lot of people in the world are competing for, but it's something that can't be duplicated either, right? I mean, you're going to go out.
Yeah, it's kind of like the deal. The deal really is the difference in land speed racing, like drag racing or bracket racing. The deal with land speed racing is that nobody loses. There's not somebody sitting beside you that has to be a loser. You can go out and not set a record, but you didn't lose anything particularly. You just pissed away a ton of money and had fun, I guess.
Right.
Fun to me is setting records. And,
Right.
To get a hat, traditionally you have to set a record and over 200 miles an hour. But
Right.
So yeah, it is what it is.
So what are all the facilities you've done this at, and what are some of the characteristics of each, right? I've been to 2 of them. I've been to Bonneville, and I've been up in the dirt at El Mirage.
But you've been with me on both of those.
Yes, correct. I have. I've ridden in it's funny. I got some great videos from my phone of riding in the back seat of your push truck with Freiberger and Tanya in the Berkeley, Freiberger in the Camaro, at El Mirage, and just the unbelievable, suffering it takes in the dirt and everything. That's a
That was when
commitment.
Tanya
Can I-
showed us
I gotta
both
ask
sides of the
something?
car.
Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, Scott, I got to ask something.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about this because all of the land speed cars use push trucks. How many cars get damaged from push trucks being driven into them?
It doesn't happen very often. When we set the 2-cylinder record, when we blew the engine up and we ran the blown fuel big
Right.
block on 2 cylinders,
Right.
I actually was pushing the car so hard, I came off the car a little bit and hit the push bar into the back of the Camaro, and it's still I was just sitting there looking at that corner of it. It's trash.
It happens.
And once in a while, but it's usually for a good cause, like setting a record with 2 cylinders.
Yeah, so setting a 200 mile an hour, so getting into generally the 200 mile an hour club means you set a record over 200 miles per hour. Some sanctions and classes have minimums, so you have to be faster in some cases. But
yeah. So basically, the deal is that at Bonneville, El Mirage, Muroc, the ECTA, in Maine, you have to actually set a record over 200 miles an hour. Texas and Colorado and some other places that you go don't necessarily have that requirement. So the real deal is whatever the place you're going to has a particular requirement for their 200 mile an hour club. Traditionally, though, it's obviously run over 200 miles an hour.
gotta
and
meet
set
their
a record.
requirements. Yep.
And Bonneville's requirements are really stiff because, the ECTA is constantly coming up, the Senior Citizens Timing Association.
I heard that's a good one. I've not
They're
heard this.
constantly coming up with new records and classes so their buddies can get in the 2 club. And what the 2 club finally did was say, hey, look, you're going to have to at least meet a minimum standard for the size motor you've got, so on and so forth. So they have minimums. And there are minimums at El Mirage as well. But of all the clubs, El Mirage is obviously the toughest. I mean, it's just a brutal place.
Yeah. High altitude, number 1. Number 2, dirty, dusty, and the track gets torn up. Number 3, short. It's a short course.
Yeah, it's a 1.3 mile course, and the worst part about El Mirage is it's a good old boys club, and there's no negatives to that. You have to race there to gain enough points to get a good position in line, so you're not racing on a course that's tore up by 50 people in front of you.
Right. That's how they got it. I mean, over the years, they figured out how to make it because there were so many people that wanted to race there. It's like, all right, you kind of got to earn your way into be one of the early early guys.
Yeah. And again, there's no negatives to that. It's just is what it is. I mean, that's the way you'd set it up if you were running it.
Yep, exactly. No, I had no complaints. I mean, I understood the situation once I was up there. What I didn't understand was guys running with no air filters and literally scraping, like I put my finger on the back of a closed throttle blade on a Dominator carburetor and picking up like a teaspoonful of silt. Unbelievable.
And the answer to that is, it's El Mirage is such a shithole. I'll never race again until next time. That's my standard statement is, I'll never race there until next time because it is a shithole. But on the end of the day, it is El Mirage. And, it's a historic place.
It's legendary, man. That's one of the first places out in the West where 2 cars lined up next to each other. That's where they could do it,
And David and I don't know if you know this or not, but David and I have been there. And I'm in that 2 club and driving my modified sports car, but Freiberger and I have taken the Camaro there a couple of times and spun it. I think you were there one time.
I was there one. Yep. Spin that thing at 190 miles an hour. That scared the hell out of me. And you guys are like, oh, no, it happens all the time. No big deal. But I, got familiar with the safety equipment and how the cars were set up.
It's amazing.
Oh, it is. Yeah. And then the other thing I got is the noob with these guys, right? So him and Freiberger, I was riding along. They were nice enough to invite me to come hang out because I was out in Southern California. That was 2007. Is when that was. And so the other initiation or initialization, whatever, that I got, when they towed the car back, like, Clark, you want to drive the car while we're towing it? You drive the race car, whatever? Hell yeah. So I'm in there and I don't realize that you're eating the tow truck dirt for like 8 minutes. And I'm just like, they're like, here, you might want this soaked rag and a bandana to drape over your face. What's all this for? So yeah, that was my initiation, but it was a good time.
One of the things we've done throughout all the years, and I know you've seen this a bunch. One of the things we do is I traditionally will grab pickup crews. I'll grab people that are walking along, kids especially, and bring them in and kind of get them. Like you, for example, that time when you were there with us at El Mirage, just how can you share this experience with somebody else? Because I'm blessed enough to have this incredible experience,
and it makes their day.
Oh yeah, well it makes their a lot of guys makes their life. I mean, hell, and to me it's just great fun. One of the guys I picked up when we went up to Maine was some jackass named Loans.
Right, Mr. Loans has been on our show, by the way, about 10 episodes ago.
Oh, very cool.
Yes,
Brian is great people. He's an incredible personality.
He is. He's a good,
dear friend,
good friend of ours. Yes, but anyway, so you hooked up with Mr. Loans.
Yeah, we took him up to Maine. We got in the 2 club up there and Brian got to be part of that. So that was kind of a lot of fun. And you got to be part of it. And Chad Reynolds has been part of that and so on and so forth.
Right. And I've raced with you guys at Bonneville, ridden in the push truck for all kinds of cool stuff. You guys actually broke me in for land racing at the Maxton Mile, East Coast Timing Association, which is, for us, it's Bonneville practice. But it's nice to be able to go out and wind the cars up a little bit and get a load on them and get some tunes and get a read on things. That's what we've always done the East Coast Timing Association stuff for. It's neat because you follow the same safety rules and roughly everything is similar. So if you can get through East Coast Timing Association, then your car is really ready to go for the salt, or 99% there. That's just how we've come to know it. And that's been a really big help because it's tough to go to Bonneville the first time.
And that's exactly right. So the story basically with that was when they started it, they raced at a place called Moultrie, Georgia. And I saw this ad about a land speed race, and I've always been fascinated with it. And I went to this race driving an El Camino that I built for the Autobahn in Germany. And I raced there. And then after that race, I didn't race again for many, many years, but I actually went and volunteered there at every race. And then eventually, obviously, bought the organization from John Beckett in 2005.
I got to wrap my head around this. You built an El Camino to run on the Autobahn.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about that car.
That's a sentence you hear almost every day, right?
Why not?
You'll get to know Keith. You'll understand. Carry on.
So I was in the Army. I was an Apache instructor pilot. I was gonna be going to Germany, and then they had this thing called Desert Shield, Desert Storm. So I kind of like hurried up my trip to Germany and had to like throw this car together in about 2 weeks because they were having this little war on that I wanted to be part of. I know that sounds really stupid, but if
No,
you're a
no, it's
gun
okay.
dummy,
We understand. Yeah.
So basically the bottom line is I built this car over about 6 months. It was a 78 El Camino, late model El Camino, with a basically a Poncha suspension underneath it, and an IROC Camaro type kit for the ground effects.
Right. I remember those.
Slammed it, put a crate 350, high output 350 with a Richmond 4-speed and a 241.
That thus explains the Autobahn experience. Right on.
And took it to the Autobahn and let the big dog eat.
Right on.
And the Mercedes would like freak out. I used to like race Ferraris all the time. And you race a Ferrari not because you can beat him, because you want to hear him.
Right.
Because
Maybe
there's
that
nothing
flat
in the
12
world.
back in the day, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I spent 3 years on the Autobahn terrorizing BMWs and Porsches and having fun.
And was that part of your military career?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, duh. Yeah, you explained that, the whole war thing. So explain a little bit about that, the helicopter thing. Rotorcraft guy.
All right, so the helicopter gig is really fascinating. 18 years old, joined the Army, found out they let kids with a high school education fly helicopters. So I went and got a high school education, went to flight school, got a college education, did a 20-year career flying the Cobras and Apaches and da-da-da-da-da. But now, about 5 years ago, a friend of mine asked me what I was doing. I said, nothing. He says, why aren't you flying? I said, I don't know. I hadn't flown in 15, 20 years. And I went back to teaching just because I love teaching. The kids are great.
I like teaching too, but I don't know if I trust my students enough to sit in the seat opposite them on their first try at a fucking helicopter. Anybody else have an issue with that?
That's why I work on them. I don't fly in them.
Right.
I got to tell you the story about this real fast. The very first day.
We got 2 hours, brother. Take all the time you need.
All right. Well, the first day that these booger-eating morons fly, the BIMs.
Right.
The first day that they fly is called their nickel ride day. I actually have a bike that I ride to work that day. That's a special bike just for nickel rides. It's a little piece of crap cafe racer that I built a couple of years ago. It's just kind of fun. And it's mostly to tell my students that I'm not your average IP that you're going to get out here. I'm some kind of weird guy. So anyway, you take them out and you hand them the cyclic, which is the thing in the middle of the aircraft, and you push forward on it and say, see, houses get bigger. And you pull back on it and say, see, houses get smaller. And they go, wow, cool. And you take the collective, which is on the left-hand side, and you throw it down and say, see, houses get bigger. And they go, wow, okay. And you pull it up and you say, see, houses get smaller. And you kick the right pedal and the houses turn right. And you kick the left pedal.
It wasn't that easy for me, man. When I did rotorcraft, I took an hour in a helicopter, and I have a pilot's license, and I'm like, screw this. Everything's fine until it's time to slow down.
So you're sitting there, and these kids are like wide-eyed, right? And you like let your hands go, and you say, have you ever flown a helicopter before? And they go like, no. And I say, well, you are now. They're like, I know. And I might add, you're not very good at it. Right. As you take the flight controls.
That's the part I would have a hard time with. I'm like, you don't know what you're doing. Here, take over. Try not to kill us.
Yeah, it's you know what you do. You're literally sitting in the seat to provide them the experience. So you get down and you land that day. And you only fly for like an hour,
right?
Each student, you have 2 students, and you land. And these 2 kids give you a nickel from the year they were born.
Gotcha.
And those 2 nickels are like my bonus day. You know, they mean the world to me.
The pay is so awesome.
They really, like, to me, those are like the coolest things in the history ever. So yeah,
that's awesome.
And yeah, it's just cool tradition stuff. So, go ahead.
Moving along with the rest of the places you've gotten so let's see. There was obviously the Bonneville 200 mile per hour club, and there is the El Mirage 200 mile per hour club. What else do we get? Yep. We got Loring, Maine.
The East Coast Time Association, and Maxton. You have Muroc Dry Lake, which is at Edwards Air Force Base. It's kind of like El Mirage.
How often did they have that one? I've never been to Muroc, and I don't think they still don't have that anymore, do they?
Nah, they quit doing it. They actually quit doing it the year I got in the 2 Club there.
Was it the Southern California Timing Association running that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
The SCTA did that.
Okay.
And then that was 2000. And then let me see what else. Loring, Texas. First car to go 200 miles an hour on the Texas Mile.
Got it.
Yeah, did that.
Take that, folks. And did you do that with nitrous or blower or naturally aspirated, or what'd you do?
We've done it with all of that.
Yeah, right.
I've actually set a record over 200 miles an hour with turbos, with centrifugal blowers, with rotary blowers, standard blowers. Whatever. I'm just helix blowers, with everything.
Right.
Can you tell us about some of these cars that you've done this with?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the big deal, I guess my big car is, the stupid ass Camaro. I've got this old junk 80 Camaro.
I like that car. It ain't bad.
It is a cool car. It's cool because it's every man's car. I mean, it's cool because anybody could build this thing. It's not fancy. I mean, it's truly, and Scott, what I'm saying.
It's clean. He cleaned it up nice. I like it. You guys went through and cleaned it up nice. It's easy to work on, relatively easy to work on. Well, when you're me standing around watching other people struggle, but it's not hard. No, it's a neat car though, but it weighs like 8,000 pounds because it has to. You have to explain that to these guys.
I'll do that. So the Camaro basically is an 80 Camaro, and we've started out. I used to run 300-inch small blocks, and it's. I know this is a tuner show, so I'm going to throw some tuning stuff at you just to kind of make you snicker. I'm a guy who's raced a car at Moultrie, Georgia, so I know everything there is to know about this tuning stuff. And we decide we're going to run nitrous because that seems like a reasonable plan on a 300-inch motor, because that's what I wanted to run.
And you're going to leave it wide open for a minute and a half at a time.
Yeah, 70 seconds on the bottle.
You know where this is going.
It's only like a 220.
The bottle lasts 70 seconds.
Well, 2 of them do when they're 15-pound bottles, but it takes you have to have several motors. It takes many motors to get to the point that you understand that.
Yeah, and carbon CO2 push.
A mother bottle on the top of it.
Well, I ended up with 2 15-pound bottles and a nitrogen push system. But
the push is the trick for at least for the land speed guys, for keeping that pressure solid all the way through the run. That's helped us a lot.
It was really important to because it makes sure that the nitrous tune-up doesn't change through the run.
Right.
So at least that part of it's. But the problem is the heat soaking over time, and it just. I used to take 2 motors to Bonneville and blow them up, and go back the next 2 months later with 2 more motors and blow them up, and I did this for a couple of years.
It happens. Yep.
So I learned something though along that way. And that was, hey, dude, don't do what you want to do. Do what you need to do. And Freiberger actually is the guy who said, we started talking, and I'd sorted the Camaro out really well by this time. By the time David and I got together, the Camaro was sorted out car, just never had a motor program. And David said, let's not do 300-inch motors.
Yeah.
So we came up, instead of running, a naturally aspirated engine on nitros, he came up with this, Vortec blower thing, and genuinely it made 800 horsepower all day reliably. I mean, super reliably.
Yeah.
The class that we run in doesn't allow EFI.
Right. Right. Yeah. A lot of the classes don't out there, but that's okay.
And I don't know that a lot of people truly appreciate how brilliant Freiberger actually is at tuning a car.
He's pretty good on the carbureted and blower stuff with carbs.
Yeah,
he's solid. Thing worked good. And I saw him doing this for reading plugs, not even using a wideband. I was pretty stoked because the car was actually running. And then later we hung a wideband on it like a year later, and he was doing pretty good. I was impressed.
Yeah, the dude's really got a clue. And all of the motors are David's. They're not like somebody, he goes hire somebody to go build a motor or something. David builds this crap.
Well, like so many people out there, you guys partner up, right? One guy does the powertrain, another guy does the roller, whatever. So, that's a common deal. I mean, that's how a lot of people are racing out there.
And I could never do it without David. We would never be as successful as we've been. I've got 20 red tags hanging on my refrigerator from records we've set at Bonneville.
Right.
At El Mirage, whatever. And that's all David's crap. That's his motor. And then, yeah, I own everything from the clutch back. That's my gig.
But
my
you
gig
guys
is the
did
car,
take the car to the
gear.
wind tunnel, though, correct?
Oh, yeah,
That
yeah,
car
yeah.
has been
Wind-
tuned in the wind tunnel, so that's one of the reasons it's probably he's happy to put his junk in that car because it's relatively well sorted out when the wing is on the back.
Yeah, it's a little sketchy without it, but interesting though. David and I just we've got this really good programmer. He does the motor, I do the car. Tanya does all of the logistics. Tanya handles the crap, and
The project management.
yeah, she just handles it. So
You guys would totally be screwed without her, by the way. Just saying.
yeah, oh, you think?
Drag week too.
Drag week would just go ahead and close right now.
Mhm.
You might as well take Drag Week and shut it off.
She tallies all the tickets, all the time slips that the racers submit all day long. Make sure everybody's got their stuff together before they move on to the next route. It's ridiculous, ridiculously busy.
The behind the scenes work there is grueling.
Yeah.
It's the behind the scenes work for Drag Week would absolutely astound the average guy. I mean, we get up, I have to be the first person at the track. So Tanya doesn't follow me to the track anymore. She'll back off for a couple hours. And we start, so I'm there, I open the gate. She is there until the last person turns in their time slip. She then has to tabulate all the results while I drive. As soon as she gets the results tabulated, she sends them out, and that's how everybody gets their results around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then usually I get like an hour nap, and then I drive through the night for whatever it is to get to the place wherever it is we're going. So it's incredibly difficult.
I can imagine it's probably one of the most difficult things to coordinate. It's got to be start to finish, like just logistically organizing, finding these tracks in the vicinity, getting them all to play ball. It sounds like a huge pain.
And the whole deal with the Enthusiast Network and their program for the tracks and their history with the tracks and all the rest of that. I am glad somebody else does all of that. I've only had the opportunity to really select the tracks one time. Though if you look at the tracks for this year, I could have selected these too. So
I am extremely excited for it. An East Coast one. This is literally right in my backyard. So this is going to be my first one.
Also, I don't know if you guys noticed, but we've got the Schroeder and Enns race team on. They won Drag Week overall last year with their 700 and
huge shout out to those guys listening, by the way.
Yeah,
Dave Schroeder.
Yeah,
Mr. Enns. You guys
are they on now? Are they watching?
Yeah, they're on.
They're listening.
Yeah,
right
they're
now.
listening
Yep,
now.
They're logged in.
And Eddie Miller is on. He's a multi-time champion. So there are some Drag Week guys listening.
So David was probably the most popular Drag Week win in the history ever, literally.
Oh, I was so happy for them,
dude. It's a Cinderella story. What's not to love?
Oh man, it was. I was talking to him on Wednesday and Thursday. It's like, David, please, God, don't hurt this car, please. I mean, because every one of us were just so rooting for him to finish this thing and do well, because I've seen this guy just throw his body at Drag Week.
Nitrous car for the epic win, man. Hell yeah. Those guys put on a killer show.
And it was a Monty Smith tuned car. I mean, how perfect is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. You couldn't write a better ending to that story. Well, not ending, but they're going to be back.
And if I recall, they didn't have a clean pass on it last year, right up until like test and tune at Drag Week.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, David, he's a great guy. Those two are both incredible guys. And anyway, yeah, they're my heroes. All the Drag Week racers are my heroes. All those guys are just because it's amazing the level of difficulty these guys go through.
Actually, I see we got Andy from Motion Raceworks on too. They didn't set the record during Drag Week, but right after Drag Week, they set the LT direct injected record with their is it a 71 Nova? I forget, but they've got the record for that. And then Andy did Drag Week with his GTO also, and I see him at least on our list here.
I'm here just quietly in the background.
So Keith, you have 7 different locations, 200-mile-an-hour records. How many? Not just 200, but how many records do you actually hold? There's got to be more.
I have no idea how many I hold today. I don't. To me, the records are transitory. They're kind of the gift that you get when you get the hat, but they're not something I own. I just rent them for a while. There are guys that like will pick a class and they'll own that class for their entire careers, their life. They don't really do anything else. David and I bounce around a lot. So I don't know. We probably have set. Well, there's 20 records at Bonneville and an equal number, way more than that in Max and the ECTA, and I don't know, just a bunch, just a whole lot. I've never counted them.
Innumerable.
Yeah, it's just, to me, believe it or not, and crazy as it sounds, they're not that. Setting a record is important. Setting a record is more fun than not setting a record. So I have fun doing that. But yeah. They're transitory.
And at the end of it, that's what it's all about. Is just we're all in this to have fun in the beginning, and no matter how you cut it. But
that's an interesting story, though. If you think about that, and if there's something I could add to your broadcast, to the people that are hanging out watching this, there's a couple of guys out there that are watching this tonight, like Frank Beck, who's building a car for his first drag week. And he did something really smart last year, and that was he showed up at the event and looked around at what was running in the class that he wanted to run. And he didn't like, hey, I've got this Camaro, I'm going to go race it. He's building a car specifically for a class that he feels he'll be competitive in with the skills that he's got. And it just makes sense, it's the way you're supposed to go about this.
I know, like a lot of people listening, the drag weaker crowd, the ones who want to run it. I saw you guys release the rules this week, and I think everybody was kind of hanging on a string. How much backlash have you gotten from those? I hear you laughing already.
Oh, here, my deal is really, really simple. I don't write the rules. I do have some minor influence with it, and obviously David and I are good friends, but I enforce the rules. Whatever the rules are, that's my job, and interpret the rules, and I aid in interpreting the rules with the tech guys. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of answering any rule question unless it's on the hot rod form with the hotrod.com deal. If we don't do that, it becomes a nightmare. But yeah, I get constantly asked questions. Well, hey Keith, what about man, dude? Give me just a second. I will never answer a question unless I've got the rules in my hand. They're brutal. So this year the rules went through a big flip flop. We had been talking about the new rules for 2018 and forward for the next 3 years, and David and I spent a lot of time. Lonnie Grimm had spent a lot of time talking to David about it. We'd all gone through it, and David had come up with they'd come up with some new program, and it was pretty poorly received, and everybody pretty much wanted to stay the way we were. So the rules are fairly close to the way they were.
Yeah, I breezed over them. Didn't see too many crazy changes. The one significant one I thought maybe you could shed some light on it. Why is the minimum weight in street race 3,200 pounds? Are we trying to slow that 850 class down a little bit?
I have no idea. We've talked about weights a lot, so yeah.
Rye, I can talk to that a little bit, having spent some time with David last week out west. And Keith, this is Bill Fowler, in case you wonder who's been heckling you here in the background.
Who is this?
Bill Fowler.
Bill Fowler.
Yeah, you won't know the room. You won't remember the name, but
do you have a Mustang? Hey, Bill, how are you, my friend?
I am excellent. And so, Rye, Rye, the bottom line is, it's an attempt with the weight to try and keep a little more variety or opportunity for variety in the class, because it was in danger of becoming the Fox Body Nationals or words to that effect. So at least this broadens it a little bit. I'll be perfectly frank on this forum. I actually advocated for a larger minimum weight in that class, just to open it up a bit more. And remember, I'm the guy that now has a Fox car, so I think I'm being fair in that request.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. That's an understandable change there. Keith, we talked to when Brian Loans was on the show. We talked to him a little bit. We know now that East Coast Timing Association has moved out of Ohio, and you guys are moving that down to, is it, well, I hope I'm not wrong here, Alabama?
Arkansas.
I knew it was an A.
Yeah, an A. I live in Alabama, so you were close.
What's the future hold for that? When are you guys going to stand that back up and start running again?
Well, here's the gig. Basically, I bought the ECTA in 2005. Joe Timney came on with me. We were partners for many, many years. He quit. Brian Loans came in, was with us for 4 or 5 years. He's got some wonderful opportunities that have come up. And basically, Tanya and I looked at it and said, okay, we're doing Dragwick. We're doing all of these races with the ECTA. We're going to sell the ECTA as an entity to somebody that we feel can continue it on. I found the place in Arkansas. We've got that all set up. We're set up for April. Hopefully registration will go live on that and membership will go live in the next week or two. And that'll get started. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Tanya and I will be there for the next couple of years. I'll be the race director and running the races. So the ECTA, as you know, it won't change pretty much the race itself. But a lot of the rules, I think, will be changed. I think some of the rules, you'll start to see a softening of some of the things that we were pretty hardcore about. So I'm excited about that. It's something that I couldn't do while I was the owner because pretty much I've held true to the Bonneville standard for years and years. And I think the new owners are looking at it and Steve's looking at it saying, geez, guys, pretty strong chance we don't have to be quite as stout as you're being.
So speaking of not being a stout, what is your take on the rise in popularity of airstrip racing, the half mile stuff that's kind of popping up all over the place?
Here's the gig. The gig is these guys are doing this because there's a bunch of guys with Lambos got a ton of money they can go race, and some of the guys are pretty good. Some of the guys are just there about the finances of it. So my take on it is I don't really know. I love that we're doing it. I don't know if you guys know this, but drag racing actually started out as a half mile gig.
Right.
And I actually have seen some NHRA time slips with half mile times on them. Yeah, for real. It was crazy.
Like in the NHRA museum.
No. This was with a guy that was a chief timer. Glenn Barrett was chief timer at Bonneville for years. Right. He had us to his house, and he gave me a stack of these things years ago. I have no idea where they're at today.
That's awesome.
It was it was really cool because they were handwritten time slips. That's the way they were issued at the time. And the whole point of the exercise. So the half mile stuff on the airstrips it really goes back to World War II, and that's what the guys were doing. There was a lot of issues with the speeds that they were getting, and I think today we're going to see a lot more of that. The cool part, we tried one half mile event with the ECTA, and it truly flopped.
Interesting.
And it flopped because we didn't set records, and our group is really about setting records. Our group is really a goal-oriented achievement, the crap you learned in Boy Scouts.
Sure.
Right.
So they didn't really care for it, but there's a lot of guys out there that just want to see how fast they can go. And, I can't argue that. I think it's awesome.
There's a lot of independent record keeping that's going on with the half mile stuff.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Everybody. One of the cool things is for many, many years, I had the world's fastest Camaro. And who keeps that record? The answer is I do.
Right.
You got a Camaro faster? How fast is your Camaro?
Mine's faster, thus the fastest.
Mine runs 262. What's yours run? It's funny. Go ahead.
Frank Saponaro, he wants to know if you're talking live from your epic garage.
Yes.
I am.
The most epic man cave ever that Keith recently has built.
Yeah, I am. It's a hick. I'm a hick. It's a hovel.
Nah, that's what we're all going to do when we're old.
I gotta tell you, it's pretty gay, to be honest with you.
Great.
It's pretty
some more letters.
No, it's just
like
frou-frou. It's
is it like Peachorita?
No,
shut up, man.
That's Scott that has that.
They're making fun of me because I had a blizzard at the house. We couldn't go out and anything. All we had was peach margarita in a can.
Was it good?
It worked.
Hey, hello.
Yeah. Now we're drinking some kind of cheap whiskey. But
is it Mango Rita tonight?
no, shut up, man. Some of you guys defend. I would like to say a thank you and a shout out to the people who defended me on social media for having been in the same situation. That's all I will say.
Hey,
You and Tim Brunert are like BFFs now over the Mango Rita and
Brunner's my boy too. I like Timothy, man.
Bewley lost friends over that deal.
Yeah.
Is that part of the deal? Is drinking on this program?
Yeah. It's kind of a thing.
You can't do the podcast sober. That's a rule.
Did you say peach? Was that what it was?
It's some peach margarita in a can shit that the girlfriend had, and it was
a peach fuzzy navel. Would that work?
Something, and it was
well. That's
great.
better than a damn margarita from a can.
Well, hello.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do to finish the race.
There is. Oh God, is that freaking horrible? Holy!
At least it's got some schnapps in it.
Woo.
A real fuzzy navel.
Yeah,
that's horrible.
Keith, this reminds me. Can you describe the difference between flying Cobras and Apaches and flying Chinooks?
Well, I really would have to show you my little pinky finger and then my arm. They would be flopping between my legs. The pinky finger would be a Chinook.
Oh.
My arm at length would be, of course, an Apache.
Great.
I don't know what to say. I mean,
I was just trying to get to an appropriate allegory to discuss mango peach canaritas.
Great.
You realize we're going to hell, right?
We need to get an alcohol sponsor. That settles it.
Who's driving the bus? That's all I want to know. I got a spot on the front seat.
Well, Eddie
get on the bus because this train is completely derailed.
Yeah, it's okay.
And so back to Cobras, so you guys want to learn something just to have some fun?
Fire away.
All right, so here we go. Why don't helicopters go fast? That's the question.
I can actually tell you why if someone else doesn't want to take a stab at it.
Why don't you take a stab at it, Scott?
So you got the rotor going around above you. Okay, that's your lift, like a wing on an airplane. The problem is that the faster you go forward, when the rotor's traveling one direction, the forward direction, it's going faster and generating more lift. But the other side, as it's traveling backwards, slows down to the forward speed and doesn't provide lift, so it ends up trying to torque its way one direction. So that's kind of your limit on forward max airspeed, right?
That was actually a pretty good definition. So basically, if I'm going 100 miles an hour forward and my rotor blades are going 400 miles an hour, that means that the blade on the right-hand side that's advancing is going 500 miles an hour.
Got it.
And the one's going from the nose to the tail on the left-hand side, it's retreating and it's going backwards. The 100 miles an hour is subtracted, so it's 300 miles.
It's providing less lift on the left side than the right, so the plane wants to turn left. Oh,
so you have to do some aerodynamic stuff to make the right side not have so much lift. At 212 miles an hour, you can no longer compensate for that difference. It is called the symmetry of lift. And at 210, 212, depends on the aircraft.
That's aircraft specific, right? Yep.
Yeah, they're all right around that same number, though, because it just gets to the point that, you can't do it anymore. It simply cannot compensate for the amount of lift created by the advancing blade.
Apparently, you never watched Airwolf.
I have. And I've been looking for the whisper mode for years. If you've never tried to sneak up on an anti-aircraft gun, I promise you'll be looking all over the cockpit of an Apache for whisper mode. just saying.
They're not quiet, right? None of these things are
and
quiet.
Do not shoot the sheep. I'm just saying. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, great. He's gonna have to stick around for after hours. That's funny.
This is not good.
Don't get yourself in trouble.
Anyway, the Cobras were very hand flown, very, very much hand flown. I mean, you literally were a pilot. You flew the aircraft to the target. So when you put the weapon systems on the rockets on the target, you literally had to fly it to that. The Apache is so electronically savvy that all it does is you put your eyeball on the target, pull the trigger, and it hits. Just that simple.
Have seen that, and that's so crazy, wicked.
If we were to remake the movie today, which one would you be, Nicolas Cage or Tommy Lee Jones?
Oh crap! Are you shitting me? So there I was, 3 feet off at the bar stool, knew I was inverted because my air medals were dangling in my face. I had to go to the premiere of that movie with Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
It was the worst 3 hours of my life. They had media sitting beside me asking me questions. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? I think it's horrible.
Did you ever put panties on anybody's head and make them a periscope and drive around a Humvee?
No, but I will tell you, if you've never flown in a bag, you have no appreciation for how bad that really is.
I'm too fat. I can't even sit in an Apache.
You have a 37-degree ocular thing over your right eye. That is your world, and your eyeball is actually in the sensor that is 10 feet in front of you and 3 feet below you. And you have to go learn how to fly with this thing in the daytime in a black bag. It's horrid.
I heard that portion of the movie was about the only part of it that was like accurate to real life.
It was
an actual that's they actually do that to train.
I actually, for a year of my life, I actually did just exactly that. I was a bag instructor pilot. I taught nothing but night vision systems. It was the most miserable year of my life. Well, no, I mean, everybody that's doing it is unhappy. Everybody is doing this just truly upset.
What's shaft horsepower of that thing packing? An Apache, twin motor?
Just 3,600.
Just, yeah, shit. I mean,
Well,
that's something. That's saying
well,
something.
I mean, compared to what I'm driving today, what I drove today, when I flew this morning, had 317 shaft horsepower, and I think they detuned it to 260.
Right.
It's a lot like a helicopter, only smaller.
1/13 of that, yeah.
It's like driving the Geo Metro version of a helicopter after getting out of a La Ferrari or something.
Yeah, but the helicopter, at least it's a helicopter. Even the little Robinson R22 is something, you know.
Well, it was funny when I went back to flying. The Apache does all the flying for you. You don't. If a gust of wind comes up, the Apache asks the computer, is the pilot making an input? If the pilot's not making an input, it fixes it.
Wow.
So you don't ever have to adjust for any aerodynamic stuff or any winds or any of that crap. So genuinely, when I got back in this little Bell Jet Ranger that I'm flying now, this thing doesn't compensate for anything. And I went out there the first day and I'm just wiping out the cockpit with the controls. And the guy says, Keith, you're over controlling a little bit. And all I could say was, yeah, think. One of the advantages of being a pilot god is that you can recognize when you really suck.
Yeah.
I was horrible. It took a long time to get back right.
That's still pretty cool, though. It's neat to be still doing that.
It's a great job with great kids. They're America's finest children. I love them to death. So
That's good.
Yeah,
that's great.
Lucky me.
Yeah, cool.
Hey, Keith,
not growing up. What's that?
Can we brushed over aerodynamics a little bit ago, and you've had a chance to take a variety of vehicles into the wind tunnel. Are there some things you can share?
Yeah, actually, I mean, here's the real.
These are things that work.
There are a couple of things that are just kind of intuitive, but I'll go ahead and throw them out there anyway. And Scott touched on one earlier, and we haven't gone back to it yet, and we'll get to it for just a second. But aerodynamically, the big deal is that smaller is always better. Regardless if it's a square box, it's going to be better than a super slick big box. So smaller is always better. There's some really crazy stuff like hood seals. Sealing the back of the hood at the base of the windshield is a critical skill. 10% of the total drag of my Camaro was gained just by sealing the back of the hood.
That's a lot, folks. That's a lot of horsepower you don't have to make to go
It is
fast.
a ton of horse. More important than the horsepower, Scott, is it's the traction that you don't have to have.
Right. That's the other problem, being traction limited. It's easy to make the power these days.
Yeah, that's kind of the gig, is that we can make as many horsepower as we need today. The problem is how much traction do I have? Where am I racing? How much traction do I have? How much tire can I put to the ground? But anyway, so base of the windshield, 10% is a big deal. The other thing that really blew my mind was that every car that is totally different. And I've been to the wind tunnel with 10 or 15 different cars and a couple of different bikes, from belly tanks to my Camaro. And I took Mike. I'm sad I can't remember Mike's Riken.
Right.
The Mitsubishi.
Mitsubishi guy. Yep.
Yeah, we took that to the one.
Got an Evo.
What a blast! He is
That's
such a
interesting.
great
Did
guy.
they learn anything there?
We learned a ton there. We actually decreased his drag a substantial amount. But that dude was already running 237 miles an hour in a mile
With a 4-cylinder, 4G63 based Mitsubishi motor in an Evo 4-door car.
Living proof that turbos are the only answer.
Hallelujah.
The easy
Everything
button.
everything else is stuff. Just stuff. And I love superchargers. I love nitrous, all like that. It's all junk. Nothing builds horsepower like a turbo.
Power headers are good things.
So anyway, the bottom line is back to the wind tunnel. The smaller's better. Lower is always better because lower equates to smaller, and people don't get that. I love all the guys that watch the Roadkill episode that think the air dam is wrong. The air dam's right as rain. We just, for some reason, we never actually got horsepower, never got it to the ground.
Right.
This car runs 240 with 800 horsepower. So, you know, as is, where is, that's the story. And, you know.
That's 800 at the flywheel on the engine dyno, right? Doesn't Freiberger take those up to the...
Yeah. That's up at West Tech.
Okay.
What else is good? Keeping air out from underneath the car is huge because the bottom of the car is filthy ass dirty, and controlling the air down the sides of the car is a critical skill. Bringing it together at the back of the car is a big deal. All of that stuff you can learn. You spend $1,500 on wind tunnel time, and it just pays you back in spades because you just don't have to make that horsepower.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a ton. So I don't know. There's one in Utah. There's one in North Carolina. They're around.
Right. Eric Yost had talked about spending some time with his Cup car guys in the ones in North Carolina. There's a couple of them there. The guy's got a high end one and then an affordable one.
The affordable one's one I've always used. That's one I've always been to. But I will tell you that interesting when Yost talks about it, these guys are looking for hundredths of a point.
Oh yeah.
We were gaining 10 points at a time. I mean, it was amazing, you know, what we could do with our car because we didn't have the restrictions those guys have. You know, the reality is we could do all kinds of crazy stuff. The CD on my Camaro, the coefficient drag on my Camaro is 0.21.
Wow.
Which is
dramatic improvement over factory, correct?
I think a really great third gen Firebird was 0.33. So 2/3 of that.
Very good.
And that's a big deal when you get down there. But the Berkeley, the modified sports car that we ran, Scott,
right,
that was a 0.183 when I sold it.
Got it.
So that's it's pretty small.
You guys will see the guys who are watching the video right now will see I've got shots of the Berkeley actually in the slideshow. A couple of shots there. You can see it. It's almost unrecognizable, but it's based on a Berkeley. It's narrowed and lengthened wheelbase, and the car is actually narrowed because you can do that in the class that they ran that in.
Yeah,
and that thing hauled ass. That thing hauled a mail.
It did, and you know the deal was we took it to the tunnel and went from a 0.27 to a 0.183. So for the same horsepower that ran 262, that car runs 308 miles an hour.
Wow! And
I sold it. One of the gigs is that you have to, the reward has to be worth the risk. And right. I couldn't make it fit.
If you're a social guy, there's not nearly as many people at the 300 mile an hour club meetings.
That's right.
Right. It even gets really lonely at the 400s.
Yeah. And frankly, you know, Amir offered me a ride in that
Cadillac Streamliner we all worked on. Yep.
Yeah. And frankly, while interesting, look, if you die doing something you really want, that's one thing. You die doing something you don't really care about, it's kind of stupid.
Not my thing either. No.
Yeah. So while interesting, I don't know. The 3 Club to me was never a big deal, but if it's your gig, then it's right, and that's what you do.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm not downing anybody for it. It's not what I wanted to do. So yeah, I like your slide. Just now looking at your slideshow, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, you like that? I just went and grabbed some pictures of stuff you do. Just to kind of give people an idea. Something to roll around with. Turk yelling at somebody. I'll tell you one of my experiences with Keith when I was at Maxton a long time ago, like 10 years ago. He's nice here and he's fun as hell to listen to. But let me tell you what, man, if he's your rules guy and you just decided to blast through the top speed limit for the safety equipment of your car, then you got to take a ride with Uncle Keith around the property. And I got to sit in the back seat while somebody got a ride with Uncle Keith for going faster than they were supposed to. And oh man, it's almost like you let your uncle down, your favorite uncle. You know what I mean? You get the guilt trip and then it's like, man, then you feel like I might get kicked out of here. I might not get to race again. Damn, I'm totally, and he's very good at, making you feel like an idiot and going back and getting your shit straight. So
one of the things about being a good teacher is you have to be able to anyway.
A little bit of discipline. Yeah. No, it was, I was like, wow, man, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah. Well, and the honest answer is you don't want to be that guy.
No.
I mean, land speed racing is different. I was looking at some stuff, and I'm not going to say who it was or what it was, but I was looking at some stuff online about guys talking about drag week. And I'm not really sure they get the whole thing about drag week, the whole look, this is about racing.
Kind of got to do it to get it.
Well, what I mean by is, you got to be honest, you don't cheat. It's just not part of it. It's not part of the program.
Except for that one guy.
If you can win, there's always that guy. God almighty.
Right.
I hate that. Well, let's not even do that. So, but if you can win by cheating, how good do you feel about that when you go home and say, yeah, man, look at my trophy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get that.
No good.
See, and that's something never happens. In theory, never happens in land speed racing because nobody wants to go home with a record they didn't truly earn. Everybody wants to be this, honest and straight and right, and to the best of your ability, sort of. Yeah, it's a sad deal, but
no.
I actually got protested 1 year.
Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say we've got 2 aerodynamics questions.
Sure, please.
One of them is, can you talk about how the 4th gen Camaros and Firebirds compare to the 3rd gen cars aerodynamically? More specifically, the high-rise Trans Am spoilers.
I actually can tell you that the 4th gen's bigger than the 3rd gen.
And that's about it, right? Have you done any 4th gen stuff in the wind tunnel?
No, you don't have to because it's just physically too large.
Right.
It's that whole inch thing, how many square inches across is it, how many linear, how big is it? What's the frontal area? And the 4th gen frontal area is a pretty good bit bigger than the 3rd gen. I don't know
how much bigger. It's like weight in drag racing. Yep.
Yeah. And frankly, there's guys running 4th gen successfully, so I can't argue it, and then obviously none of this has anything to do with drag racing because in drag racing, all bets are off. You're only at your top speed for such a short period of time. Aerodynamics are not near as significant as they are at Bonneville.
Right.
So yeah, specifically on the wing, I really have no knowledge of it.
There's your answer. You got to go test it out. Check out the A2 wind tunnel.
I agree. 100%.
Vinny Barbon. Yep. Vinny Barbon says one of the coolest moments of his life was Keith giving me an impound sticker last year.
At Drag Week. Yep.
Do you guys know who Vinny is?
Yes, we've had him on. We actually live broadcast with them on the side of the road, broke down. It's in our Drag Week one of our Drag Week episodes that we did. We kind of covered all you guys. And Vinny and them got on and actually got on the phone with us for like a half hour, just telling us. And it was like halfway through the week, and he was already dead beat and just like, they're going to make it no matter what, man. But it was just funny.
I don't want to give away any secrets, but genuinely, I mean, everybody, the people that have to come to impound are the guys that have run 850 or better, or, 1, 2, or 3 in your class. Those are the guys that have to come to impound. I wander around Drag Week, and I know a lot of people at Drag Week, obviously, haven't done it every year since it started. And there are people that I watch people beat themselves up, and it's like, I really want to do something for that guy. So I'll actually impound somebody just because
to give him a break.
I feel for him. Well, no, I mean, it's like Vinny. God, I love Vinny to death. He's just a great guy.
Oh, they're cool, man. Geo Tracker guy in Unlimited class that ended up in 4th place. It's pretty awesome. Just because of attrition.
Right.
Attrition's a big deal. A lot of people don't get it. Just be there at the end and see where you end up. You might be surprised.
90% of life is getting off the couch and moving your hands a lot. It's not rocket science. Anyway, yeah. It's anyway, just a great goose. I got the opportunity to do that for people every once in a while. I'll snag somebody and throw them an impound.
Right.
But I accidentally did that last year and got a couple of guys I got one guy that was in the top 1, 2, or 3 of his class, and I ended up having to go get the other 2 guys and bring them to impound so that all 3 of them could be equal. It was a mess. It was like, okay, I won't do that again.
Right. You learn, right? It's got to be tough doing the rules for these things kind of on your toes as you go. And I've heard you have to decode some things where there were some gray areas. And the explanation you gave was, all right, listen, I got to make a decision that's most in the spirit of the event. What were the intent or the intentions of the original rules, even though that they didn't cover in this certain depth or detail?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And you do that. And I don't traditionally, if I have to do something like that, I won't do it by myself. I'll do that with Lonnie and David and the editor of Hot Rod and a couple other guys. There'll be several of us that get together and do that. We'll never do anything like that personally, independently. It's just too important to the event. One of the deals about Drag Week or running any event, because I've been the race director of the ECTA for 10 plus years. You run any of these events, the whole gig is to try to be fair to everybody. And I mean, literally, it's so important that the guy that's driving the Honda, Ian, what was his name? The guy with the little Honda that came from California. That guy's an entry. He's not Larry Larson, but he's an entry. And he's still got value, as much value as Larry.
Something that really helped that hit home this year, Ilana and the other guys were doing a lot of lower budget live streaming, going through she spent like an hour and 40 minutes at one point on a single stream, going through the staging lanes at Cordova on the last day of Drag Week, talking to people who had made it. And that was this whole everybody's doing a podcast, everybody's got live feed videos thing now is awesome because there were literally hundreds of hours of content you could watch. And it's literally so much like being there. So it was really, really impressive. I thought that was super cool. That kind of breathed some real life back into Drag Week for me and the spectators. Because my story typically is I spend a month before Drag Week getting 4 or 5 cars ready and thrashing, and then during Drag Week I'm like, the first day I'll show up and then I'm like, I'm out, you guys check back in with me if you're here, and the last day I'll come visit and we'll see how it goes.
But the other part is too, Scott, you're also working on some of the best cars there.
We try
on average.
We started off as the first Drag Weekers winning in a pickup truck, the small block power rider class, running 1008s. Dude, those guys are going mid-7s now. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, but it was one of the best Drag Weeks in history ever. So there you go. That was a great one. But
first one was great.
They've all been really, really good. There's some that are more memorable, some that I've enjoyed more, but on the end of the day, actually, interesting story, because Chris was hurt that one year I didn't go, and Tanya is the only person that's been to every Drag Week, every racetrack, every Drag Week.
Wow.
David hasn't.
Of all the administrative people, yeah, he missed 1 or 2, right?
Yep, he missed 1 or 2, and he actually missed a year.
Yeah.
And Tanya's the only one, because Tanya's it. She's anyway. Yeah, so that's Drag Week.
That thing exploded enough last year. I think spectator-wise, I think more people are clamoring for it. I see it getting bigger still. Unfortunately or unfortunately, whatever. I participated a little bit, and I was not, last year I was like, man, this actually is pretty cool this year. This is, and then I was watching the live feed stuff they were doing, live streaming and the live feed, and it was really cool. I'm like, oh, because the neat thing about Drag Week is the stories of everyone, not just based on the class they're in. You know what I mean? Some of these little guys have the, middle of the pack guys have some of the best roadside stories.
Well, more important than that, and you can take this through land speed race, and you can take it everywhere. The guys that are running 100 miles an hour are fascinating.
Yeah,
I love those guys. I cannot tell you some of the cool stories. I have a guy at the ECTA, Scott. True story. Eric Rule has gone 124.7 miles an hour.
In what or on what?
On a 250 Ninja that's like a wicked cool looking little.
So that's pretty fast for 250cc class that he's in.
Oh, absolutely. Dude,
yeah.
It's a record without question. But he wants a D license, which is your first license you get at 125. And of course, I've told him several times, Eric, I'll give you the damn D license. He says, no, I want to earn it. I'm like,
I like this guy already.
124.7 miles an hour. And I'm like, literally, we've been doing this for 7 or 8 years. He's been trying for this, and he can't quite get there. He just can't quite get there. The day I signed that guy's license for going 125,
right?
I promise you, I will be in tears. The
kid wants it, man. He's working for it. That's awesome.
And but you're not going to hear about that guy on average. On average,
that's one of the reasons why being there or experiencing it is a neat thing to do. Drag Week is like that a lot, and they can accommodate the spectators at Drag Week.
Absolutely. The spectators, the whole gig is that I think that when Drag Week grows, I think it grows in the spectator arena, not growing in necessarily the competitors.
Right.
I think the competitors are pretty close to their limit. But
so John Enns just wrote that he thought you never liked them, Keith.
Who was that?
John Enns, the Schroeder and Enns night. The guys that won Unlimited this year.
I don't like him.
Yeah. Hilarious.
It's too late. He heard you say that you love those guys, and now
he's
all better now.
Let me tell you something. If you hadn't figured it out, and I know Scott knows this for a fact, the people that I like know I like them because genuinely I've had enough friends die before I told them that it will never happen again.
But as an addendum, every single one of them have wondered at some point in time or not if they were still on the good list. But that's okay.
Well, there's some people that have been on the naughty list.
Sure.
Kind of like Eddie. Eddie lives on the naughty list.
Eddie Miller.
Come on. I love Eddie Miller.
I actually like hanging out with Eddie, too. He's kind of funny in person. A lot of people don't realize
as soon as he gets on the internet, I want to shoot him.
Right. I hate people like that. I can't stand those internet keyboard warriors. Hell with those guys. Sorry. I'm not going to be that guy.
Now that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's genuinely.
Did anybody get the irony there?
Dude, the irony is hitting me like a Peterbilt running me over at 80 mile an hour right now.
I don't know who you are.
So is the Templeton Rye. Sorry.
George Dickel's warming me up and you're knocking me down.
I've been doing Seagrams. This is actually, I like this drinking program.
It works good. A little buzz. Keep you warm in the wintertime.
Yeah.
We just need to get we just need to get you a log on and you just come do this with us, more often than.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can sit any time you want. We can actually show you how to get on it with your phone without even having to dial a phone number.
Wow.
But, yeah.
That's pretty
hit me offline about that. We like to invite people that are fun and interesting to sit in anytime they feel like it. Because we would just take random questions from an audience too. It's a live show.
Well,
you get a couple hundred people.
You're sitting here with Bill Fowler. Do you guys know who Bill Fowler is?
They just know him as the guy who tells me what I can and can't legally say and when to shut up and keeps us in line. And,
exactly.
Bill?
Yeah, yes. He's
Bill
our
Fowler's that
board,
guy?
Yeah, he's our board of director.
Really?
And our council,
right?
Wow, were you hard up that day or what?
Yeah. And this one time he drank too much and it didn't go well. We got phone
I remember
calls.
that episode.
That was fun.
No.
Tell me it's not so. Bill?
It's not fun when you got to mute your phone after you get a night, and I'm like, I got to go to bed, and then try to hopefully nobody's calling me and yelling at me. But anyway, yeah, that Bill.
Hey, let me take a second, guys.
Big Barge Mustang Bill.
Fowler,
Yeah.
Big Bill Fowler is a guy who has truly thrown his body at Drag Week. I mean, from the beginning, this dude has literally just trashed himself.
That explains it.
This huge ass car go fast, and that big ass Mustang, the convertible Mustang. How to start with the wrong car early and often. Wow.
Oh, he's done everything weird. He had like a manual valve body A40D. It's like, what? But it worked. That car hauled ass. It really did. And he's actually a 2-time winner. Or do you have 3 jackets, Bill?
Only 2.
Oh, so he's not really that awesome, but I'm just kidding.
He is genuinely badasser in my book. Here's the dude that has truly thrown his body at it. I mean, I watched him try to get lifters somewhere in one of the first drag weeks. I mean, it was crazy. And I was like, why in the world did you bring a car that big to a drag race? Yeah, because I can. I'm a big boy. I mean,
I needed something that I would fit in.
We got to be comfortable.
So how now he's got a Fox Body Mustang, an ex-patrol car. Explain that. I can't even fit in that. None of us can fit in that.
After 10 drag weeks, you finally figure it out.
Yeah.
Bacon.
Yeah. Now his
grief.
X Patrol car is going to be pretty nuts when that thing's all sorted out. Another big all motor car with nitrous just in case.
Does it have air?
No.
No air.
260 air.
Yeah, right. 2 windows, 60 mile an hour.
That's horrible.
Bill, are you doing it this year?
Oh, hell yeah. It's only a 3,200 mile tow. Why would I not?
Yeah.
He's literally as far away in the 48, the lower 48 that you can be, pretty much, other than not like in Seattle or something. But he is on the West Coast.
Bill, if you decide to go home on I-10, buddy, you can come right by my house.
Deal. I'm looking at the Facebook screen, and the two guys next to each other posting are Jeff McConnell and Eddie Miller. Keith, you have brought something to the table.
We bring people together. That's what we do here.
You have Jeff McConnell is on. Here's another one. Hey Jeff, how are you, buddy? Another guy I truly love to death. You know?
All right, another guy I love to keep working at the rules anyway.
Dude, walk around the corner one day and I see this Malibu. Of course, I'm a G-body guy because my El Camino and all that crap.
Jeff's is the most photographed G-body, or the most shared photo of a G-body is his car in that massive wheelie in 2000
in Montgomery.
Yeah, Montgomery.
Walked around the corner, it was like, holy crap. Not like the Hubers. I mean, the Hubers, I walked around the corner and I literally saw the entire top of the car. Literally bumper to bumper.
Yeah.
The whole top of the car. And then it proceeded to go down the course and just haul ass.
Yeah. No, it happens. But anyway, yeah, McConnell's listening. Shout out to my buddy Jeff. He's been coming up here visiting me in Omaha. His job's been bringing him up here. We've been having dinner. It's good stuff.
Wow, very cool.
It is good to see him.
Good people.
Yep. No, I wouldn't go that far. But
Oh, and Randall Burns. Randall Burns is another one of our pickup crew members for the Camaro.
Yep. He's like, Keith who? I saw him post that earlier, but yep, Randall's on here listening.
Dave Schroeder says, get them on the show. I say we should have Dave. I think we should have Schroeder and Enz on the show.
Dude, I invited him. He knows I stood there and invited him at Drag Week, and he's like, I don't know, I'm kind of shy or whatever. I'm like, all right, you do your thing. You're gonna go get the tour of the Superstardom whatever guy, and you get back on our podcast when you're ready. And
they have an open invitation to visit in Fargo.
Amen. Aren't they coming to see you or something here soon, or what?
Well, I don't know. That something about custom headers, and they might be in the area.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Okay, I don't know if that was public info, but anyway.
Ooh. Are they like real headers, like to a turbo, or are they headers to headers?
You might want to check their Facebook posts. I don't know nothing.
Okay, there you go.
Why the hell else would they be going to Fargo, North Dakota? But whatever.
Well, there's a company close by called GP.
I'm glad you said it.
Well, there's a company close by called GP Headers that does some pretty nice stainless work.
In North Dakota?
Minnesota, but it's like 24 miles away.
Yeah.
Same thing, only different. All that says to me is Samsonite.
Right, I knew it was coming.
Whoa! My God, they're in North Dakota.
Yeah.
They're coming down from Canada. It'll be like a heat wave here.
Oh, shit.
God, twice as much Samsonite. I have to agree with him on that.
I'm sorry. When you look out and you see white stuff, it's time to pack Samsonite, move your happy ass south.
All right. I agree after this winter, man. This was a cold one.
Yeah, it's not a lot better here. Anyway, yeah, so there's that.
Yeah, we'd like to get them on the show. They're cool guys.
I agree. You'll have to get Dave some beer though, because I think he gets better probably after beer.
I'll let him go ahead and get started early. I'll tell him that.
He might have to bring it with him. You know, American beer being Canadian. I don't know how that's
right.
Well,
I just think of the strange brew guys.
You know, Canadian beers like moonshine.
They've got that like 20% stuff up there. What is it? Molson Ice or something? Double X Ice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a fridge full of Dos Equis. That's like Mexican beer. That's the wrong direction.
That's too well. I mean, they're not like it. It's like getting a beach vacation or something. You're gonna have him a flowered shirt and throw some sand out, and make him think he's on the beach.
So Eric Engelbretson posed actually an interesting question. He goes, do you have to run a drive shaft loop if you're running a carbon fiber drive shaft? Every rule I've ever seen says yes, but I guess I don't know that for 100% for sure.
I could, if you're running with us, you would have to. Because, when it comes apart, it doesn't really matter what it is.
What it's made out of, right? Everywhere. It's still violent.
Yeah. You ever had a drive shaft come off? I had one come off at 250 miles an hour one time.
Busted a few on the chassis dyno.
Yeah. This actually came off and was hitting my back.
Oh.
It was in the Berkeley.
Ah.
Yeah, not good.
No.
That brings up a good question for you, Keith. There, what's the most violated rule, or not violated, but most often overlooked rule for somebody teching into drag week? Like, what do you see the most?
Wipers, bitches.
G-body frame rail.
No, I am so going to disappoint you. I'm stunned by these guys. First off, their brilliance and their ability to build a 1,500 horsepower motor, and their inability to make a left turn signal work.
No, that's so true. In the tech line, there's people pulled off to the sides right before the line or right after that are working on the turn. You got a turn signal flasher for a 71 Nova? Yeah.
What part of left turn, right turn, brakes, and horn did you not understand?
And I've heard you explain it so many times in so many different places.
It's funny, isn't it?
It's not, because we got our asses chewed for not having working wipers at one point in time, and it got quite dicey.
Oh, dude!
In Chad's car. Yeah.
Do you remember you just mentioned him, the kid with the Trans Am and then the Camaro, Eric Yost.
Eric Yost, yes.
So Yost shows up at drag week number 2 or 3 or whatever the hell it was, with his little Firebird thingamajigger.
Yeah, little thing.
Bird.
Some big turbo thingamajigger or whatever. And he shows up and he's got one windshield wiper. It says windshield wiper. I said S, wipers. And David was enforcing wipers that year. So Tanya and I are talking to him. I was like, look, I'm driving. So I don't forget what I was driving. I was driving something other than my truck. I said, my truck's sitting right there, and I'm not going anywhere till the end of drag week. So there's a wiper on my truck. He went and stole it and got it on this side. And he literally stole the windshield wiper off of my pickup truck, put it on his opposite side. And then because he didn't have a drive motor or mechanism inside, he put a coat hanger from one windshield wiper to my windshield wiper.
And it worked.
And he used it to drag them back and forth, and it worked.
This is a NASCAR guy, folks. He totally made that work, too. Yeah.
I mean, it worked good, actually.
Got through tech, yep.
So the worst part is, after drag week, he left with my freaking windshield wiper.
I need to get home. I need my other windshield wiper.
And by the way, it's a brand new truck, and they don't sell these yet.
Eric is listening right now.
He is listening. He knows.
Eric Yost, if you can hear my voice, you owe Keith Turk a windshield wiper.
He's sitting there. He's sitting there in his living room right now, just laughing his ass off uncontrollably, probably in tears.
Well, because it was a true story. It was a great story.
He's got some good ones. Holy crap!
Well, if I didn't get a jacket that year from drag week, at least I got Keith Turk's windshield wiper sitting up on his mail.
He's got that thing mounted on a plaque hanging on the wall.
If he doesn't, he ought to have.
right next to the jackalope or something like that. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that was brilliant. It was fun. That's drag week. That is drag week.
It's different, but it's a good time. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun. A lot of my friends are drag week guys. A lot of my closest friends.
Yeah, and I got to be honest with you, Scott. I sat here last week listening to this guy on Automotive Fuel Systems. I forget his name.
Jeff Stacy. Yep.
Holy crap! What a brilliant guy.
Dude knows his stuff, and he knows the product. Stacy's a fluid transfer cooling fuel kind of guru. He's been for a long time. I've known him, really just kind of got to know him like just 3 or 4 years ago, 2013, 2014. But
I was listening to some of his comments on where you put a pressure regulator and just sitting there going, yeah, why wouldn't you? That's exactly where it ought to be.
Yeah. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And Jeff also got on and knocked a bunch of questions out on the Facebook chat and our podcast fan page as well.
Cool.
Biggin said he'll bring your wiper back this year if you'll let him run methanol.
Who was that?
Sorry, that's funny. That's Eric Yost. Yep.
Yeah, Eric said he'll bring your wiper back if you'll let him run methanol.
Yeah. Tell him I'll get right on it.
Yeah. Come on.
Well, that's kind of funny because Frank Saponaro was asking for Eric. He said, "Can you give any input on why someone outside of Unlimited can't run methanol?" Asking for Eric Yost.
not just saying. I was kind of alluding to that a little earlier and didn't want to say exactly what was going on, but it wasn't Eric that I was talking about. I'd badmouth Eric, but I'd make sure he knew it. Yeah.
Well,
Funny. Go ahead.
Speaking of that rule, I read through the release rules for Drag Week, and I didn't see the actual outline of it. All I saw was a limit on the size of the methanol container / tank.
I'm not going to comment on it.
Okay.
Drinking and commenting on Drag Week rules is just a bad call.
See, good discipline, guys.
Ignorance is no excuse for sheer stupidity.
The rest
I'm
of
going
us
to
lack
show
it.
up to Drag Week this year on methanol and Lexington
2.5
windows and
gallons
street
tank.
weighing 2,000 pounds and be like, this RealTuners 33 episode. Keith Turk said I could.
I got to be honest with you. You have no idea how many times that has happened in my life.
You told me blah blah blah, and had 3/4 of the time he never did.
Well, I guarantee you, I never did.
Right.
Genuinely, if I'm nothing, I'm smarter than that. You know?
Yeah. Right on. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just tough. It's just hard. Yeah. The whole methanol thing is tough. And again, here's the deal: do what's right. As long as you know you're doing what's right, it doesn't really matter what everybody else is doing. If you're doing what's right, you're doing what's right.
I think the biggest gripe with the methanol rule is that if you're running methanol, you're restricted to the unlimited class. Unlimited meaning big money, big budget, everything else. You can run C16 in the other classes, which is much more costly than running methanol. So from a cost perspective, it doesn't, like, dollars to common sense, dollars to cents ratio isn't really there with that rule. I think that's where the beef comes from.
I think it has a lot more to do with, there are some people that are really cluey when it comes to alcohol, and you can do some wonderful things with alcohol that you can't do with gasoline. And I think that's the reason.
Yep, we talk about it all the time.
Again, this is just me talking. That's not the race director. That's just me talking.
Tommy Chrysler's voting for methanol too. A lot of people want to run methanol there.
There are a lot of people run E85.
E85 is allowed. It's a
85 is fine. It's just the fuel, but I mean, it's just with the fuel injection systems and the technology available to us today to be able to run dual fuel systems on a car that can switch seamlessly.
Well, we've done it before these rules. I'm just saying we've done it. We were doing it back in 07.
Of course, look at Kurt Urban did it with the sleeper booth.
John Stevenson was doing it like 2 years before that.
Chris Bashir's
octane on demand. Yep.
Yeah, Chris Bashir's had it on his truck for a while. Shane Austin's big black Chevrolet pickup truck, twin turbo big block, dual fuel with Holley, one computer, 2 fuel systems.
Yeah, if it's an effort to keep costs down on those lower classes, it doesn't cost that much to do this now.
I don't think it's about cost as much as it's about some of the performance gains. But again, I'm not going to talk about it because I just don't know what.
I got you. We won't beat you up about it.
Move along, Rye.
I've had.
You got it. I'm sorry.
I've actually had to do some fuel system tests in the last couple of years. So
wow,
just let you know that I have done that testing.
Wow.
So I wanted to jump back over towards land speed stuff.
Cool.
What do you recommend for somebody who has never done it? You got somebody like me who's done drag racing. I want to go land speed racing. I've never done it before.
Never asked that question. No one's ever been asked that question before. I'm kidding.
What do you recommend
so
for
easy. I go 200
first
mile an hour in the quarter.
Well, hello. I have a car that I went that fast in. Man, that's the perfect question. The reality is, the first thing I'd ask you to do is just get off your ass and go to a land speed race of any kind.
Watch.
I really don't care. I don't care which one it is. If it's a mile event, go to a real land speed racing mile event like the ECTA, or Loring, I think, is to a large degree set up like the ECTA. Go to El Mirage, in California, and Bill Fowler. I don't know why you don't live at El Mirage. I can't fix you if you don't do that.
I know why.
I know too, but it's bad. The point of the exercise is that first off, go, and then don't go. Do not take what you have and go race land speed racing. build a car specifically for the event, because it's radically different than what you're going to build if you were building a car for drag racing / land speed racing / whatever. I want to go run the good guys sporty car event and go drag racing and go land speed racing. Unless you got the money that, RJ Gottlieb's got to run Big Red Camaro.
And change it up every time. Nah, it doesn't work.
Yeah. So the reality is my advice to you is basically go to an event and check it out, and then get a rule book and figure out which part of that, in that rule book, there's going to be a class, and it's hard to figure out all the classes. That's why you have to go to an event and really kind of look at it and see which things really turn you on. And hopefully a 32 Roadster with a small block Chevrolet doesn't turn you on, because that's like the hardest class in the history ever. Honestly, just get a rule book, go to an event, get a rule book, see what turns you on, see where your skill set, matches the record book. And again, don't run what you have. Go find and build something specifically for what you want to do. And if you want to go 200 miles an hour, it's fairly easy to go 200 miles an hour, honestly. Horsepower wise, it's 800 or so horsepower and the right car. So
Continuous horsepower, though, folks, not drag racer horsepower, not 8 seconds. Got to be able to do that for really. I tell people 120 seconds wide open.
Yeah, if your car won't run 120 seconds wide open, it's probably not going to work.
Nope.
And even if it does, it's probably got to back it up again. You got to do it twice at Bonneville. So yeah, that's I hope that answers your question right. Because honestly, I've seen a bunch of people. Hey, I've got an '84 Corvette that I'm not doing anything with. Wouldn't it be great to go drag race or go land speed race? And the answer is no.
No, because everybody else has already.
No. Scott, the car's just too small. It's too small to put a roll cage in.
Right, gotcha.
Scott and I had a really interesting thing happen to him and I. And one of his friends went to Bonneville without really talking to a lot of folks, but he did do some investigation, and he did some testing and stuff. He went to Bonneville with this really fabulous car, and we were sitting there talking. I want to say it was the day after, but it might have been even the year after. Scott, I don't remember. We realized that if he had just run in a different class, he would have already gotten his hat. He'd already gotten the.
Oh yeah, Gary. Yep.
No, it wasn't Gary. It was
it Mike Collins? No.
No, it was Amir.
Oh, Rosenbaum. Oh yeah. No.
You remember?
Okay, I do remember. 06.
Yeah, he ran in gas, and he could have run in fuel.
Right, and turned it up. Yeah.
He ran in gas because that was what he was running.
Right. But he could have literally just signed up and run in the fuel class, but still run gasoline, because you can run gasoline in the fuel class, and he would have had his record. Yeah.
And that record was like 5 miles an hour slower, and he would have beat the record.
Yep. In a Ferrari F40 that we cut up to go racing at Bonneville and received much hate mail for. But,
well, and all of it deservedly so, but frankly,
that was a neat car. I like that car.
If you've got an F40 and you can go land speed racing with it, why wouldn't you?
Oh, it was awesome. No, it was hilarious. I should tell the story about the second motor that we built for that thing.
Please.
So the first motor, this is a guy that I worked for and a friend of Keith's, and he had a bunch of cool cars, but he had a Ferrari F40 that he legitimately road raced it, and then he's like, I'm gonna cut this up and go Bonneville racing with it, because there were some things. It is the fastest Ferrari-powered Ferrari to go out there and run. Even to this day, some guys tried some faster ones and didn't get there. But he took this car out there, and I just spent so much money getting a cage, and it was tough to get it out of because it was a small car. And now it was heavy and just kind of weird and custom gearing and all this stuff. Well, we blew a motor up the first time out, kind of knew we were going to do that. Well, trying to find an F40 engine, it's not the same as like a 348 or a 308. I guess it's different for you Ferrari knowledgeable dudes out there. And so
that would be us.
He has his staff looking for a replacement motor that we can refurbish, because the other one's got windows in it, and the other block. And so we find at the Ferrari headquarters in Modena, Italy, there was a little museum kind of thing or showcase at the entrance to the facility. And one of these engines, they had an engine on display. It was an F40 engine that had been run on the dyno and broken in, but never put in a car. And it had a valve cover that was signed by, it wasn't Ayrton Senna. Who was the big Ferrari driver, guys? Formula One guy.
Michael Schumacher?
Yes, Michael Schumacher signed the valve covers on this thing. And so we found someone's like, there's an auction they're having or something, but they're looking for the right buyer. It wasn't an auction. That's right. So I got a hold of these guys, arranged a deal, and my buddy Amir is like, all right, let's have the negotiators take over, or the attorney guys or whatever. They ended up promising that we would take this engine, this display stand, and put it in an honorable place in our corporate office or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And the first thing Amir does when that thing shows up in a crate, he bought it for like $110,000 something. First thing he does, swaps the valve cover out with the other motor, and that sucker goes down to the engine building shop. And it was just kind of hilarious. Not a lot of people knew about that, but it was just kind of funny. Anyway, a lot of people know now. I didn't give any last names, but so interesting story about that whole Ferrari project. There's a built motor waiting in the wings.
Scott, let me caveat you real quick with some of that. I don't know if you got hello.
Yes, we're here. We hear you.
Okay. I don't know if you guys realize how many engines Scott has tuned. But, I've actually personally been responsible for throwing Scott at some really crazy shit.
Yes. So an inline 8 Buick, 1950 Buick Fireball 8, one of the first production overhead valve car motors with a supercharger hanging off the side of it. Flathead Ford with a turbo. A whole bunch of flatheads.
Let's not forget the IndyCar engine. What was
right?
That
was a Cosworth DFV that I tuned for Calvin Smith, he has family that took care of Cosworth DFVs back in the 70s and 80s. So really cool combos. There are a couple of different displacement versions of that, turbocharged and all motor. What else? Gary Hart's car, the twin turbo big block Chevy Studebaker, 53 Studebaker, which is still the fastest Studebaker without a top chop at Bonneville. Fastest record in the 260s.
Oh, Scott, I can't count the number of cars that I've watched you tune, but you even tuned my Berkeley for God's sake.
Briefly, just helping get it started once or a couple times and get it running, warming up because it was cold up at El Mirage. But yeah, it's just whatever. I plug into whatever and try to make them better.
And that's kind of the whole point, is that, I don't know if a lot of people realize what the diversity is there, though. I mean, you go to Bonneville, that's, I guess, probably the coolest thing about land.
That's the best thing about it. There's no belly button combos out there. There's guys with inline sixes, there's two LS heads welded together. Subarus with Ford small block heads, or weird shit. Half a V Hemi that's 4 cylinders out of a top fueler style Hemi or a Donovan style Hemi. Good God, there's a Jimmy 6 302 cubic inch GMC motors from the 1950s with a big honking Pro Charger running on alcohol.
Well, yeah, why wouldn't you? When David and I blew the engine up that one time and we ran it on 2 cylinders, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but that was probably the coolest time I've ever had at Bonneville. Was trying to figure out how to make a blown fuel big block Chevrolet run on 2 cylinders, and then actually being successful.
Oh yeah, it's fun to see these guys actually setting records at these weird combos. But
yeah, that is land speed racing in a nutshell. I mean, it's that there is no belly button.
It keeps you on your toes, man. Guys this is where like bad wiring harness practices expose themselves. It's where you learn like the drag racing tune up is good for that. If it's an 8-second car, it's good for at least 12 seconds in real life, and that gets you into third gear. On your Bonneville car, but you got to understand like pulling timing back over time, and with chamber temperatures get hot up there, what are you going to do? You got to keep the burn rate in check. There's a lot of stuff to learn. We've tulipped a couple of valves and done some stuff up there learning, but fortunately, all cool people that Keith has introduced me to all these folks. It's true. So
hey, let me do one more thing for you, just while we're sitting here chatting about it, and we haven't covered it yet, and that's the weight thing, the tire size and weight.
Yes.
Thing. Because people don't get this. Bonneville is all about traction. We've already decided you can have all the horsepower you want because you got people that actually know how to tune it. But the reality is you have to be able to put that horsepower to the ground. And it's not putting it to the ground, leaving the line. There's no 60-foot time. Nobody really cares. I look at Bonneville as kind of a long drag race. It's a 5-mile course, and you enter the course you drive basically to the 2-mile marker, and then you start entering the course, and you go to the 2.25 is your entry speed. Between the 2 and the 3, the 3 and the 4, and the 4 and the 5 mile.
Then they clock you as miles. Time. Yeah.
So the point of that is that it's between the 2 and the 3, the 3 and the 4, and the 4 and the 5. That you really have an opportunity for your motor to work against the gear and to accelerate the car when it's got the most amount of air pressure on the nose of the car. And you're trying to get through the air, and the air is kind of like molasses at this point, not wanting to go around the car very much. And you have to have a lot of traction. And ultimately, like on a drag strip where you've got an artificial surface, you've got a big contact patch. At Bonneville, we have really skinny tires, oftentimes very tall, but very, very skinny. And we have a very, very small contact patch. But we have a lot of weight incident on that contact patch. So the pressure on the contact patch is really high. Consequently, the traction over that contact patch is pretty good.
Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, you're on a salt surface.
High pounds per square inch on that traction, on that patch. Yep.
So the higher the weight of the car, the more heavy the car is, the better it is. You say, well, why don't you just put a spoiler on the back of it? Well, the spoiler creates drag.
Yes.
And to overcome drag, you have to have horsepower, and then you have to have the horsepower put to the ground, which equates to
need more traction.
Well, you don't have any traction. That's kind of the problem here. So it's easier to add ballast to the car than it is to add aerodynamic aids because you don't have to overcome anything other than time. So because you have 5 miles to accelerate, in theory, you have time.
Right.
So that's why my Bonneville car weighs 4,700 pounds.
Bam. Wow.
Or 40, 45, whatever it is.
Whatever it is around there. Yeah, I'm sure it changes with different configs, but yeah, wow.
It does. It does. Yeah, David brings all this stuff in. It's kind of like, yeah, I think we're going to run a small block next, which is kind of interesting. We haven't run one of those in a long time.
That's tough class too. Those displacements there in the 400-inch range, 370s.
So going back to what you were saying about the weight, it almost sounds like the weight really doesn't matter, and the drag really does matter at that kind of speed. So just add a bunch of weight and keep the drag down. Is really the answer.
Yeah, keep the drag to zero, but you have to add the weight to get the traction. If you don't have the weight, you're not going to have the traction. I mean, it's not going to be there. You have to have a really small area with a lot of weight over the top of it that gives you traction. And the reality is,
don't you have to have a certain amount of balance with the weight too otherwise the car wants to drive backwards?
That whole center of pressure versus center of mass discussion.
We could have that discussion, but the reality is and here's the truth. The truth is, as long as you're pushing the car forward, as long as you have more horsepower to drive the car forward, you're accelerating the car. As long as it's accelerating, it will feel really bitchin'. If it's not accelerating anymore, and this is true, I don't care if it's Ralph Nader and his Corvair or you and your 1968 Roadrunner and your 69 Roadrunner and you're out there at 130 miles an hour and you run out of horsepower. When you run out of horsepower, the car out of the relative wind. It's trying to drive through this wind, but it doesn't have any more horsepower to push through it. So consequently, the car starts getting floaty.
So it almost kind of unsettles when you lose that push from the back.
Oh, clearly,
nose is over. Yep.
It clearly unsettles it. It can't really nose over because the wind. So it sits there and it literally just seeks away out of the relative wind, and it just drives like crap. So, in theory, you always want to be pushing forward, accelerating, and in practice, I know there are a lot of guys that like to go out there and try to go as fast as they can go between the 4 and the 5 and float through all that crap, but I'm kind of over that. And I'll be honest with you, we actually set most of our records between the 3 and the 4. We don't drive through the 5 if we don't have to. We try to get it done by the 4 and
do it as quick as you can, as soon as you can. Yep, saves you parts.
Yeah, because parts don't like being held out there for that long, that wide open. Yeah, they just break. I broke a 6th gear one time. It turned the nitrous on in 6th and just broke 6th gear in half. Got involved in 3/4 slider, knocked it into 4th gear, which sent the motor to the moon. The motor dropped a valve, locked up. When it locked up, it went back through the transmission and got the ring and pinion gear. So it was pretty cool.
See where this is going, folks? I'm just seeing dollar signs. Cha-ching.
First post. Oh, this was the Rodec too, Scott.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
First runs with a Rodec. I destroyed the Rodec the first time we ran it. This was the first pass of drag week or of speed week at Bonneville.
Yeah. On a really nice build. You're hoping to be out there for at least a few days making passes and passing the shits.
Got a couple of records, right?
Yeah, right.
No.
Well, I mean, yeah, not happening. But I mean, we just start to go out. You just try to be there first and then try to be running consistent, and then go really lean on your stuff. I got some guys that are waiting in the wings for a good course to come up here in the next couple of years. We'll get one. And
well, do you want me to talk to you about the course? There's actually a guy listening to us, a guy that we talked about earlier, Randall Burns, that can tell you about the course.
Oh, Randall's awesome. He's our guy that he used to live right there in Ely, and we would send him out to do, he's a geologist for a living. Dude can really talk about course quality, but carry on.
So what he was saying to me was that we've had, 3 years or 5 years of drought, followed by 3 years of average rainfall. What we need is 2 or 3 years of really badass rainfall. And then all of a sudden we'll be back to where we were.
Right.
But until we get that really radical rain, we're not going to have really great courses. But having been a follower of land speed racing since the 70s, I know, shut up.
I had him on, I was laughing on mute, but I'll go ahead and unmute. Hitting the mute button.
I need another beer. Anyway, the honest answer is I've watched this happen 2 or 3 times now. It goes bad for like this. Every 10 or 15 years, it goes bad like this and kind of goes through this cycle and it'll get better. So the salt will come back.
Yeah. And I mean, in the meantime, it's just, it wasn't bad this last couple of years. It just wasn't 300 plus mile an hour conditions for a factory, an altered car or whatever. No,
not what your guys are fixing to run.
No, I mean, like I said, the guys are patient. We'll wait in the wings, and we'll have a good story to tell here.
Well, and that's part of land speed racing is that it's not always perfect this year.
Patience, yeah. You get 1 or 2 or 3 races a year, or one big chance. Sometimes it just doesn't happen.
I hate to say it's kind of one of the things I really dig about it is that when I first started, I really wanted to go racing, and honestly, land speed racing is cool because A, nobody loses, and B, I don't have to do it every Saturday night,
Right.
Yeah, because
you gear up for that one event a year. As actually, some guys are geared for that, and I like doing that. I mean, it's a neat thing to go to Speed Week, so I try to go every year.
It's good. Well, how could you not? Once you have been to Speed Week, guys, if you've never been to the Bonneville Salt Flats,
I'll tell you, Andy Leach and those guys have got something wicked waiting in the wings that they're literally going with Neil Roberts through the CFD, scan the car. It'll probably see wind tunnel time. They're getting ready to unleash something it's got numerically, or it looks like on paper like it should do it. And its shakedown runs the last 2 seasons went great. I think Cecilio's car, if we get it, that one, we just haven't had enough time with it, and he doesn't like to take it out when the course just doesn't look like it's there. He's got another car that we can take out that's good on rough courses, the naturally aspirated 69 Charger Daytona. But so I got a couple of guys that are just waiting with something relatively serious.
There's some shit fixing to happen in Australia here next month,
right?
Yeah, there's a bunch of guys down there. I think Marla Trent's down there.
Oh, some American guys. Yeah, the Project Target 550. Just the name of that car is ballsy.
And that car is stunning.
It's beautiful.
Truly stunning. Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful car. There's a lot of really, really great people in the sport.
There's a lot of great looking cars that don't go fast though yet. They'll get there. Hopefully, I'm rooting for them. But it's like, oh man, I hate to be in that phase where you got this car that looks like it should be hauling ass, and it's not hauling ass yet. But
I'm sitting here looking at the Camaro, and the Camaro is just poor, old, and rusty.
That's every Bonneville car. We're about we got like 7 minutes left. Anybody else got questions for Keith? Frank Saponaro's still with us, and it's like past his bedtime out there on the East Coast. Come on,
I've got one more for Keith.
Go ahead, Bill.
Go ahead, man.
We have a lot of conversations on RealTuners here about what to do to get ready to go to the dyno. What are the things to do to be properly prepared to go to the wind tunnel?
I love that question. That's actually a cool ass question. Here's the real deal. The biggest thing about the wind tunnel is you have to change configurations in a really, really short period of time. It's $700 or $400 an hour. So, I mean, think about how much it costs you a minute to sit on your hands. So there is no sitting on your hands at the wind tunnel. One of the reasons I've been there so many times is that I don't go there as an expert in wind tunnels. I go there as an expert in changing your car and setting your car up to be in the wind tunnel. So we want to set it up like with no shock absorbers, for example, and set it up with 2x4s and 1-inch wedges so we can jack the back and jack the front of it up 1 inch at a time. So we can look at what the correct attitude of the car is, so we can change that around if that's one of your goals. If your goal is to change different spoilers, to make sure you have all those spoilers in advance and you're ready. You want to go there with a lot of 1/2-inch foam board and duct tape.
No, that makes good sense. Yeah.
Because
be ready to ghetto rig something to see what kind of improvement you get. You can go home and make it final later.
If you look at my Camaro and the actual rear spoiler that I have, that spoiler was done in 1/2-inch foam board, and we found that it was 10% better than the one that I had on the car.
Wow.
And we jacked it up 14 degrees to get the notch angle, the angle between the top of the roof and the top of the spoiler to be, I think it was 11 degrees or some crap. But in any case, if you go to Wind Camp at hotrod.com, you'll find Wind Camp, and it's a complete story about that. But anyway, so getting the car ready, basically, make sure you have the ability to get it up and down in minutes. I mean, literally in increments in minutes. Make sure you have the correct, stuff to be able to put however many different spoilers you want to put on the back and how many air dams you want to put on the front. And, we did 9 different hood scoops, and and I can't tell you how many blows on the Camaro when we did the Camaro. It took us like 10 or 11 hours to do all of the blows. But I promise you, we were doing a configuration change about every 7 minutes, 10 minutes.
Wow. So be ready on the ride height for the rake angle. Be ready on all these adjustments that you're going to make, and probably talk to an expert. Spend a little time or even some money beforehand getting ready, getting some advice to be ready.
And actually,
so I've never been to a wind tunnel. What happens? You make these changes? Is there like a dyno screen that prints out your CD, or how does this work?
Here's what happens. You take the car. The car's in the wind tunnel. It's on pressure sensors. You do a blow, a pass. A pass is they get the airspeed
like
up
that.
to
Sorry.
in the small wind tunnel. It's like 95 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour. So they blow it at 100 miles an hour, and it gives you a number. And it's kind of like a dyno. Numbers are horse shit. The only thing that really matters is what your number is compared to the next number.
Right.
So you make a change.
Is it repeatable? And yeah.
Is the change good or is it bad? Is it better or is it worse? How does it affect it? Wheel spat's good. Wheel spat's not good. You just bolt them on, take them off. And then you start changing air dam heights, change altitude of the car heights. You change everything. You slowly look at what the pressures on the pads are. So when you make a blow, it lasts for about 2 minutes, 3 minutes. You blow, and it just measures the pressure of the wheels on the car. The wheels are physically sitting on these pressure pads. Then you look at the data and make a decision on what you want to do next. And what I do in my job in the wind tunnel is basically to go in there and make the changes for what you want to do next. Because I'll jump in there and, kind of.
So essentially it gives you a pressure. Is it like a combined pressure between all 4 tires, or do you get each tire individually?
It's all tires are independent, and they determine the amount of downforce you have on the front tires, the amount of downforce you have on the rear tires. And you can then measure the changes in that, whether you have an increase in lift or a decrease in lift, where you have a downforce, or if you have lift, it can actually measure lift because it's tied to these sensors. Your wheel is tied to these sensors like you would tie down.
So it's measuring how much the force of the wind is yanking in any direction on the wheel, on the tires, basically. How much
up and down.
Gotcha. And the more improvement you make, the less force it's applying.
Right.
Yep.
So you can physically see that because the amount of wind is going to be the same.
Got it. And you can see the weight change or the distribution change front and rear. One of the things we ran into on Cecilio's car was 600 pounds more downforce on the front than we realized we had. So at 300 miles per hour, around 280, it was at that 600 pound number. It was right at the edge of the tire's weight rating. So literally a rake angle change in the car completely fixed that in one move. It was pretty cool.
Well, not only that, but all of a sudden you took all that weight off the nose and maybe even put it on the back.
Well, we were using shock travel sensors, so we were able to do this on the fly out on the salt. So it was, we were watching what it was doing, but we did I think we kept same weight on the back as what it ended up doing. We didn't actually transfer any weight. We just changed the rake angle of the car. It was all we had to do.
I know I've only got 2 seconds left, but the fact of the matter is that your wind tunnel can just as easily be your data ack. And those shock travel sensors are something I've used for a long, long time.
Yeah.
The other thing I've used is pressure transducers on air ride. The Camaro has always been on an air ride, and I can measure the air ride pressure. And I have measured that pressure with ballast on the car to determine how much downforce the pressure equated to.
Yes, your own homemade pull-down rig. Yes.
Yeah, it's not fancy, dude. It's what I had.
But it works.
Yeah.
That's why he's not slow, folks. Very cool. All right. Well, Mr. Turk, thank you very much, man. We appreciate having you on. That was super cool. A lot of people listening tonight, and obviously I'll show you where the podcast episodes are located later. You can share with your buddies, but you did a good job. We appreciate it. And you stayed the whole 2 hours. You're the man. Give this guy.
I'm going to die tomorrow, and I actually have another 15 minutes before my 12 hours bottle to throttle wears out, so I might actually have another beer.
That's probably what we're all going to do. Sit on here and bullshit for a little bit. So cool.
All right, my friend.
Well, thanks, buddy. It was good talking to you. We'll be in touch.
Thanks a lot, Keith.
Bud.
All right. Take care, Keith.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Night.
That was super cool, man. I enjoyed having Keith on there. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. All right. Well, we should do the housekeeping duties, guys. It's 10 o'clock, our time central. Thanks for everybody that stayed on listening tonight. That was pretty cool. A lot of good questions. A lot of interesting stuff about the wind tunnel. That one's going to go down as an interesting and one of the cooler podcasts. So let's talk about the classes coming up. Dude, I'm hopping a plane in 2 days. Friday, heading to, I'm flying to Orlando. The class is in Palm Bay or Melbourne, Florida. We have, I think, like 3 seats left for that one. That's going to be a good class. That's at Trick Pro Motorsports. That's an EFI Essentials class. That's covering basically all just standalones, the best practices for common or popular standalone EFI systems, not any specific ones. However, coming right up after that, February 24th, get your Holly on at TIC Performance, Mount Airy, North Carolina. That's going to be the RealTuners Holly EFI Essentials, specifically in EFI Essentials, only using the Holly ECU. TIC is probably going to sell that one out, but that's worth looking into still. They're offering, they're going to have some like package discounts for ECU purchases and parts and other stuff for people who are attending the class. Talk to them about that. One of the classes that has some seats open that we added here, March 10th and 11th in Northwest Arkansas, Magazine, Arkansas. If you missed out on the 2 Blake Hughes classes that are up, there's actually some seats left for the second Blake class. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Northwest Arkansas is an opportunity to come and check some stuff out. I think we're going to have a fuel tech car at that one in Northwest Arkansas in Magazine. Check these all out at realtuners.com. Then go to live EFI training classes. Let's see, what else do we got? Oh, Dallas Fort Worth class just opened up. That's going to be March 24th and 25th at Dynocom headquarters. That's kind of cool. Chassis Dyno headquarters. Jason Deutscher and Dotson, the guys from Anything Automotive, Drag Week guys, class winners, are tentatively scheduled to be there. Maybe we're trying to get Deutscher's car on the actual dyno, which would be super cool. We're working on that Drag Week car, but high-powered stuff there worth checking out. Turbo LS guys. Let's see. After that, we've got Shore Tuning April 7th. That's going to be GM Factory ECU stuff. That class is almost sold out. There's probably 4 seats left for that. 3 seats. Let's see. What else do we got? That's about it. Check out the schedule. There's 5 or 6 more, but that stuff's later in the year. RealTuners.com. All you got to do is click on RealTuners live classes. You can find the radio show there as well. And really, that's about it. So I'd like to say thanks to my bud Mike Higginson for sitting in here with us tonight and bullshitting. Thanks, buddy.
You got a question?
Too late for that.
Oh.
Sorry.